Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser was sitting in the front row at that Trump rally on Saturday. He was directly to the right of the president when the gunman opened fire. Congressman Meuser joins me right now, live here at the RNC. Great to see you, Congressman. Thanks for being here.
Great being with you,
Just
too.
happy to see you and that you're okay. What happened?
Well, you know, we saw a lot of the images. They showed quite a bit. The gunfire occurred about 7-8 minutes into the president's speech. He was having a good time. We were with him beforehand as a typical rally. Next thing you know, you hear gunfire going off. I was standing next to Senate candidate Dave McCormick, as well as my colleague, Representative Mike Kelly, and we just really looked at each other a little bit stunned.
Did you know what was happening at the time, or
the first couple of seconds? No. I mean, we looked up, we turned around, and real concern, like, what is that? Because it was a real pow, pow. And then by the third shot, it was clear. And then I looked at the president, and just when he put his hand up on his head and he hit the deck, and that's when everybody knew exactly what was taking place. We were under fire, and people started screaming, crying, getting low, hitting the deck. Secret Service, of course, did its thing. So it was crazy. But you know, on the same note, let's face it. I mean, when President Trump rose and put his fist up with blood on his face and that iconic image, I mean, you know, everybody felt better. It cooled the crowd.
Yeah. And
everybody said, you know what, he's okay. We're going to be okay.
Yeah. Knowing that he's okay. But the fact that his first instinct was to, you know, raise that fist and say, fight, fight, fight is incredible.
Right.
This picture
his
I agree,
strength
iconic.
of character made everybody else stronger.
Yeah. Let me get your take on the state of the race. President Biden is defending his own political rhetoric. You know, he's claiming that he has not had bad rhetoric. But in this NBC News interview, he claimed that Trump is the real problem. Biden is facing questions about his time to put Trump in a bullseye comment just a week before this incident. Watch this.
You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye.
I didn't say crosshairs. I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. I'm not the guy that said, I want to be a dictator on day one.
Oh, that is so misleading. Dictator on day one, we all know, was a joke from President Trump, and he was talking about EVs and the auto sector. But what about this explanation? I said bullseye, not crosshairs.
I think their rhetoric is very inflammatory and, yes, in fact, dangerous. It's lies. It's false. And they need to stop doing it. Right? I mean, why can't we have a policy debate? I want to challenge the DNC, the Biden administration, this campaign to an actual policy debate instead of saying all kinds of untrue, horrible comments about an individual's on a personal basis. Even Jill Biden the other day called President Trump evil. I mean, really? And then Melania Trump, I mean, you know, contrast what she had to write on it. But Biden has called him, analogized him to Hitler, to undermining democracy, they say on a regular basis. Some people are going to believe that.
Yeah. Exactly. The president is also claiming that he is not engaged in the same type of political rhetoric as Trump, and again said that Trump does pose a real threat to democracy. He keeps saying he poses a threat to democracy, even as actually it's Biden who keeps blowing off the Supreme Court with his student loan debt forgiveness, and they want to pack the Supreme Court, and they want to take Trump's name off of the ballot. How does that not affect democracy and threaten democracy?
Maria, there's a theory. Every time they accuse us of something, it's truly what they're guilty of. And, you know, the lack of respect for the separation of powers, we could get into all that. But let's have a policy debate. Let's see them run on their policy. We'll run on our policy. Let's remove all the vitriolic and hateful innuendos and hyperbole, and let's see what happens. And you know what? They won't be able to do it. Yeah. That's why I'll give them the challenge.
You know, it's interesting because you don't really hear Biden talking about his policies.
No.
He's always talking about Trump. But do you ever hear about the excessive spending having led to 40-year high inflation, which is killing people?
Let's talk about the border. Let's talk about national security. Let's talk about energy policy. Let's talk about spending and inflation and pro-growth initiatives for the economy.
So what about Trump's pick? He picked Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his running mate. The media and some Democrats have wasted no time in attacking Vance. I want to get your take on this, but first, watch this.
Sure.
it's going to be consequential for the world even before we have the election.
He's unqualified. It's a singular issue.
He is a radical authoritarian, and Trump is picking him.
He is now picking a vice president who has pledged 100% loyalty to the cult of Donald Trump.
He would never stand for the Constitution before he would stand for Donald Trump.
Look, I don't know if any of these people have any idea what they're talking about. Congressman, what do you think?
I think J.D. Grew up how he did, right? Poor. Okay,
and he wrote about it in that book.
Right. Okay. Joined the Marines, was able to go to school, Ohio State. Then he was so smart, he was able to go to Yale Law School, and he made something of himself. He went out, he was a business person, and now he's back to service.
So he represents the American dream, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
But how does he help Trump?
Well, I think President Trump analyzed that, and President Trump just doesn't bring on anybody on board. He believes he will be a good partner to him, or you know what? He'll be his vice president.
Right.
The president doesn't need a partner to execute his plans.
Yeah.
And J.D. speaks very well. He's a great messenger, but he's also a hands-on guy to be an operations person and carry out and execute the plan.
Are you speaking at the conference? What should we expect in the next couple of days?
I'm speaking of various things, but I'm not speaking out there, unfortunately.
All right.
Unless there's a break in the action, who knows?
All right.
but outside of that, what we should expect, it's going to be a show. It's going to be positive, and we're going to set the stage to win this campaign.
Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria.
Congressman Dan Meuser joining us.